Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I am Darshit, and on behalf of Godrej Material Handling, I welcome you all to our next and 29th webinar from our Godrej Storage and Handling Knowledge series titled How to Create a Dense Storage System with 100% Selectivity. Before I move on to introduce our esteemed speaker for today, let me just revisit the core purpose of running this knowledge sharing platform that is built specifically for intralogistics domain. I would say it as a Godrej way of giving back the knowledge that we have gathered in past 6 decades now to the society and our industry. And I'm happy to express that time and again the encouragement for continuing this has always increased with overwhelming response from you all. Coming to today's topic, let me just paint it like this. Probably one of the many things that could not be produced by mankind yet is a piece of land or space. It is always insufficient and expensive where it is required the most. One of such places is a storage setup or a warehouse, where every square feet saved or utilized wisely turns to an economic advantage to the company. So, to strike a right balance between the required throughput and storage space available, we need to be informed and aware about the options available in the market to make most out of it. In our upcoming webinar, How to Create a Dense Storage System with 100% Selectivity, we will learn about various stages of storage systems, along with a system that provides dense storage and allows 100% selection of material stored in any pallet across the storage system. And we are going to have a close understanding of this from our eminent speaker, Mr. Shiva N, Associate General Manager and Head Marketing at Godrej Storage Solutions, a wing of Godrej and Boyce Manufacturing Company Limited. Mr. Shiva is a chemical engineer with masters in marketing management. He has been regional head for sales and business development and country head for product management and has been associated with Godrej and Boyce for over 20 decades now. His focus area is to create integrated marketing strategy to provide best-in-class customer experience to the customers of Godrej Storage Solution. Before I move on, I would request everyone to put in their questions in the chat box on the top right of your screen. We shall try to answer them straight away or towards the end of the session. Please do not forget to write your name in the box above in the Q&A section. That will help us to get back to you after the webinar in case we miss your question. With that, I request Mr. Shiva to take over and wish everyone has an insightful session. Over to you, Mr. Shiva.
Yeah, thank you, Darshit. Very good evening to all present here for this webinar and a very warm welcome to this session. In today's session, we are going to together understand as to how we can create a dense storage system with 100% selectivity. Let me move on to the topic directly. Storage system can be categorized broadly in terms of racking and shelving. A racking system is used for bulk picking or bulk storage, and shelving for discrete picking and storage. In today's session of selectivity versus dense storing, we are going to talk about a racking system, and hence we will delve into racking. Racking is also called pallet racking. And when we talk about pallet racking, as I mentioned, it is suitable for all bulk storage and picking applications. Having said that, let us see the applications of pallet racking across industrial segments and what are all the applications across each industry it caters to. We have FMCG, food and beverage industry, pharma and healthcare, consumer durables, engineering, logistics and retail. We might have some more like chemicals and paints and automation, automotive or automobile industry also. So if we have to talk about applications across these industrial segments, we can talk in terms of raw material storage, primarily which comes into the places, into the industries which have a manufacturing setup and hence the raw material. these places also require packing to be done in terms of getting the finished goods shipped out, and hence storing and retrieving of packing material, and finally the finished goods which comes out of these industries. Apart from this manufacturing sector, we also have a distribution sector wherein the manufactured goods come and gets stored and then gets distributed across to reach the end customer. Apart from the manufacturing industries, from where the distribution happens, we also have segments like logistics and retail, where manufacturing doesn't happen, but we have storing and a distribution of goods, wherein a large amount of storage requirements is there. Having gone through the applications, let us see the solutions. Let us go through some of the solutions in terms of the racking storages, which is there as an offering for across the industrial segments which we talked about. To start with, we will talk about selective pallet racking. So selective pallet racking is a pallet storage system with 100% selectivity. If you allow me to show this aisle position, through this aisle we can access the pallet positions across the storages, and there are aisle positions available after every interval of racking system, so that every racking across the storage can be accessed, and hence 100% selectivity of product is possible. Um, and in terms of the material handling equipment, suitable material handling equipment can be chosen according to the aisle width which is possible. Somewhere where you have a wide aisle racking, you can have any material handling equipment, and when you have narrow and very narrow aisle racking, suitable handling equipment like articulated forklift or a turret stock picker is required to be used. Here, when you go into narrow aisle racking, what happens is the density increases, the number of pallet positions increases with narrower aisle. The requirement of specialized material handling equipment comes into force, and probably if any operations have to be carried out in the aisle positions in terms of sorting or something else, that might have to be compromised. But what we achieve through creating a narrower aisle and increasing the denser racking system, the cubic space utilization of the entire warehouse goes from 18% in terms of wide aisle racking to 28% in terms of very narrow aisle racking. So that way, the density can be increased in terms of selective pallet racking. Coming to the next solution, which is double deep racking. In the picture, which I am able to, which I am sure you will be able to see my pointer. Here, if you see, there are double deep storages which happens compared to the earlier picture which I showed, which is selective pallet tracking. So once the deep is double that of selective pallet tracking, the density increases. So once the density increases in terms of the selectivity, it goes down to 50%. Why? Because in case we need to access the inner pallet, which is deeper, the outer pallet has to be removed. Only after accessing the outer pallet along the aisle, the inner pallet can be accessed. So hence 50% selectivity. Increase in capacity when compared with selective pallet tracking will increase by that will increase by 33% as far as double deep racking is concerned. Special double deep reach truck is required for accessing the pallet positions deeper inside. That's one special requirement in terms of double deep racking. It's suitable where there are more pallets of same SKUs to be stored. This particular system is useful when we have more pallet positions of same SKUs, because otherwise what would happen is anytime we need to retrieve a pallet which is of an SKU which is inside, the outer pallet has to be removed. To facilitate better throughput, same SKU of multiple pallets can be stored, and that is where this particular system would be of use. Skilled operators needed, because to use the double deep reach truck and to reach the pallet which is inside requires a skill, so that during the operation the material handling equipment doesn't come in contact with the racking structure or damage it. Hence, a skilled operator is required in this case. Relatively time consuming operation. As I explained, it's a relatively time consuming because it takes time to reach the inner pallet position to either store the products or to retrieve the products in the pallet which is in inner position, and hence it is relatively time consuming. Uh, we have done with the double deep racking system, and coming to the next application, this is pushback racking. So pushback racking offers denser denser storage of products with further limited selectivity. Here we can have 5 deep of storages, which is possible usually in pushback racking. And pallets are stored by pushing back the existing pallets in the storage system, thereby storing the newer pallets which has to be stored in the system. And most of the MHEs can be used. Only thing is the efficiency of the MHE which we use should be of higher power, so that the load on the system can be withstood by the MHE. Here the density increases, but with limited selectivity. Coming to the fourth type, drive-in pallet tracking. Here again, the density of the storage system increases and the selectivity further reduces. Here, the bay can go up to a length of 10 meters, wherein through the height of the bay, the products can be stored in pallets. The only thing is across the bay, there has to be one particular SKU which has to be stored. Else, if we need to retrieve the pallets which is in inner position, all the outer pallets, exterior pallets have to be removed to access inner pallet position across any particular bay. And hence this also is suitable for multiple pallets having the same SKUs in a particular bay. In this racking system, the storage and retrieval happens through the MHE, which goes inside the system and accesses all the pallet positions in that bay. And yeah, here operational efficiency decreases because the pallet has to get inside the bay and carefully come out of the bay through the guided rails which are at the bottom, which you can see in the picture. And hence the time consumed to retrieve the pallets to come out and go in takes toll on the operational efficiency. Next, we come to shuttle pallet tracking. Shuttle pallet tracking gives an operational improvement over the previous one, which is drive-in pallet tracking. Here, what happens is here actually the structure is similar to the earlier explained ones. It is made up of frames and beam assembly. The critical difference between this pallet tracking and the earlier storage systems is the presence of the shuttle. A shuttle is an equipment which is kept over the racking system and excuse me, it travels along the bay and it accesses the pallets in the bay, picks it up from wherever it is required and brings it to the outer end of the bay. And same way, when the material handling equipment places the pallet with the goods on this shuttle, the shuttle carries the pallet till the end of the bay, wherever it has to keep the pallet. and comes back. In case the shuttle has to be moved from one bay or one level to another level, that can be done through the forklift. It can be picked up and it can be placed wherever it has to be used for moving the pallet positions. The disadvantage of this system is selectivity, because once a product is placed, once a pallet is placed, the pallets behind that particular pallet cannot be accessed without removal of that particular pallet. Safety of the operators and safety of operation is far secured compared to the drive-in pallet racking, which was the previous one. Because there the material handling equipment has to be driven in. Here that is not necessary. That operation will be completely carried out by the shuttle, which goes across the guided rail in the entire system wherever it is placed. So these are some of the solutions of pallet racking, and we were able to see the type of selectivity and the density which offers. If we have to see on a summary level, this is the simplest of the system which offers a maximum selectivity, 100% selectivity, wherein aisles are given for access to each pallet position across the storage system. Now, in case we have to increase the density, what would be the scenario? It would be very simple. Take away the aisle positions and fill it up with racking structures, and something like this would be there. And here it would be entirely the racking structure and with only one aisle, minimal aisle area and maximum storage area. But what about the selectivity? But even before we come to selectivity, what advantage does this offer by increasing the racking system in place of aisles? It increases the capacity up to 187% compared to a selective pallet racking in terms of cubic space utilization. And it also saves space by 50% compared to a selective pallet racking operation, wherein you have aisles between every bay, every racking structure, wherein you can have 100% selectivity on the fixed racking structure. But in case of this scenario, which is in the right-hand side of the slide, how do we access the pallet positions across the storage system? Is it possible? Do we have a system wherein we can have this particular type of configuration wherein we store the materials in the in a warehouse, and we also have a selectivity to go into any particular part of the storage system and access the pallets? Yes, that's possible. And what is the type of system we are talking about? That's mobile pallet tracking. Let's see what mobile pallet tracking is. We have seen selective pallet tracking, and selective pallet tracking is something like this, wherein the racking is fixed to the floor space in the warehouse, and you have aisles across for the material handling equipment to go inside and access the pallet position, pick it up. The scenario what we are talking about is mobile pallet tracking, wherein in the same space available, we increase the density of the storage. Now, what's the difference between the left-hand side picture on the right-hand side? Left-hand side, we have the pallet racking structure, the racking system, which is fixed to the ground. And in the right-hand side, we have the racking structures which are moving with an undercarriage, which moves over the rails which are fixed to the ground. So there is an understructure which takes the load of the pallets and the racking structure, and it keeps moving, thereby creating aisle position wherever it is required to access that particular pallet position to retrieve or to store the pallets with the goods. So lesser the aisles compared to the left-hand side, denser the storage. Yeah, that's what we achieve. I'll take you through a small schematic video which will explain the operation, and then we will get into more details. So in this video, you were able to see how the aisle was flexible. It could be reconfigured by moving the entire racking structure through the undercarriage, which moves over the rails, which is fixed on the floor, and thereby the material handling equipment could get into the aisle to access the pallet position, whichever is required to retrieve that pallet. It could be used for storing that pallet also. All this is possible by this main control unit, which is a electromechanical control unit through which this entire system operates. Let's see in summary how the cubic space utilization goes up versus the selectivity, what is offered by individual solutions, what we talked about. Sorry. Yeah. I'm sure you are able to see the screen wherein we have the selective pallet racking SPR, which goes on from wide aisle racking to narrow aisle and very narrow aisle racking, wherein the material handling equipment could be a different one, a specialized one, which could get into narrow aisle and very narrow aisle racking system, which is the articulated forklift or turret stock picker, so that the operations can be carried out. And by this, what we achieve, the density of cubic space utilized in a warehouse increases from 18% to 28%. As we go along, go to pushback and drive in and to shuttle, we increase the density. It goes up to 43%. But what happens is selectivity becomes a compromising solution, as we discussed. And there is something called pallet flow racking, wherein there is a gradient maintained across the bay of the pallet, across the bay of the racking structure to a degree, to an extent of 4 degrees, by which through gravitational flow force, the pallets flow. And one of the areas of one of the disadvantages we have in this system is installation of rollers, and more so it is from the point of view of reduced density, because of the gradient given across, we might not be able to attain the levels of pallet storage in terms of height. So these are the types of racking systems what we saw so far. And while the density increases, the selectivity decreases. And only in most of the cases, as we go to the denser system, unless and otherwise the initial pallets are moved, the inner pallets cannot be accessed. And that's what is addressed through mobile pallet tracking, as we saw in earlier 1 or 2 slides. So let us look at what makes together a mobile pallet tracking. The basic components remain the same racking system, the racking structure, which is made up of a frame assembly with uprights, bracing system and spacers, base plates, shims, the framework joined together with the help of beams coming in. So the frame assembly and beams form the basic structure of the racking on which the pallets are positioned. The understructure components through which the pallet system moves, it becomes mobile, is this one, which is the undercarriage assembly. Plain wheel, guided wheel, motor assembly, four-wheel beam assembly, and two-wheel beam assembly all come together with the bracings, cross bracings, to form an integrated undercarriage assembly on which the pallet moves on the guided rails. Having said that, this entire system is controlled through electrical control. We have a main control panel through which this entire operations are controlled. We have a unit control panel, excuse me, which is mounted on every carriage at the start of the carriage for the operations. And we also have an option of having secondary control panel in case of applications like cold storage, where we need to have operations within a cold room area. So that's also possible as optional one. So this is in terms of the control panel through which the operation of the mobile pallet tracking can be controlled. Now coming to safety features, it becomes very important to have safety features in place in a racking structure. Warehouse being an area of handling pallets which carry tons of loads, it is very important to ensure safety of man and material. And it becomes more imperative when it comes to a system which is mobile and which again carries tons of loads with it, and it keeps moving. And these safety features can't be a single tier, single safety feature, but it has to be multi-tier safety feature because due to operational due to a mistake, human mistake or human error, if we fail to activate one particular operation, there has to be second and third tier safety feature which has to come into force to make the operation safe at the same time efficient. So let us see the safety features inbuilt into a mobile pallet tracking system. Front light barrier. In front light barrier, what happens is there are positions through which light screen is created in front of the entire pallet tracking, mobile pallet tracking system. At a height of 500 millimeter and 800 millimeter, there are two positions at which a light is emitted, and there is a receiver also for this one. And yeah, these positions can be also customized as per requirements. Um, what happens is this light screen, when it is cut through any operator, through any man or material or machine which moves into the idle position, the signal is sent to the control panel through which the system recognizes that some operation is happening in the idle position, thereby avoiding movement of the mobile pallet tracking system and thereby avoiding any accident. So once the light screen is cut, the operations is stalled for the operation to be done manually by any operator or by any material handling equipment. This is one safety feature. The next safety feature is lateral safety sensor. This also goes by the same principle of emitter and receiver, wherein if it senses an object through which the signal is cut, then there is a stoppage in this entire movement of the mobile pallet tracking unit. The undercarriage stops once it senses it, thereby avoiding any accidents. Next, stop sensors. Stop sensors ensures that automatically a 30 millimeter distance is maintained between the carriage bases. Thereby, there is no collision of carriages which happens during the movement, and safe operation is carried out with safety to material and to the racking system thereby. So this also operates in the same principle of a transmitter and a receiver. Thereby, the next carriage is sensed and this 30 millimeter gap is maintained between the carriages. aisle check push button is used for accessing the aisle. Once any operation is happening inside the aisle check push button is used, and once the operation is over and the aisle is cleared, again by activating the button, only then the pallets would be ready for movement. Acoustic signal. This acoustic signal gives indication to people in the vicinity as to what is the type of operation which is happening in this racking system. If there is a white steady color, it means that the entire system is on automatic mode, means the operation is happening, and the signals are sent through the main control panel. If the white color flashes, then it means it is on manual mode, means an operator is operating the system using the remote control in a manual way, by which the carriage is moving in either direction. A green color being steady means that the system is ready to start operation, and hence it alerts people that the system is going to move for operating and creating aisle positions. Orange color, if it flashes, it means that the system is in movement and it warns against anybody entering any aisle when the system is in operation. So these safety features at various levels ensure that operations are safe, and the warehousing system is not compromised on safety features for man and material. Emergency button is used whenever there's an emergency and when we want to stop the operation of that particular carriage immediately. By pushing this, we can ensure that the activating this, we can ensure that the carriage movement is stopped immediately in case of emergency. Having gone through the safety features, what are the optional accessories? We have a remote control through which we can do manual operation. As I mentioned earlier, in terms of operation in cold room area or cold storages, we could have a secondary control panel which can be operated inside a cold storage area, which transmits signal to the main panel as well. Automatic lighting is not actually a optional feature. It is available across right now. People have started using it. This saves the electricity consumption, and through automatic lighting, that particular bay where the operations have to happen can be lit and operations can happen, and other bays, other areas where the bay is not created for any operation, there the lighting would not be there. Picking mode is a feature which is available, wherein the available aisle width can be divided between the picking areas where the operations have to happen. Ventilation mode is a similar facility, which is an optional one, wherein it can be activated to create ventilation across the pallet positions in case any food and beverages or any stuff required to be ventilated across the storage area. So the required the available aisle width is distributed among the storage area to create the ventilation. The understructure, the undercarriage system also acts as a guided rail for very narrow aisle equipment to get inside wherever it is required. And in case we need to use a stacker for the straddle to get inside to access the pallet positions, we can create we can customize the mobile pallet tracking accordingly. The understructure can be customized accordingly. So these are some of the optional features we have in mobile pallet tracking. Overall, coming to the general features, what mobile pallet tracking offers in summary is, in terms of movement speed, we can have a movement speed of 4.7 meters per minute to access the pallet positions. Acceleration can happen within 2 seconds, and from 0 to attain 4.7 meters per minute, it takes 2 seconds max. And same way, from 4.7 meters per minute to come to 0, once it is activated, it takes 2 seconds for that at max. Time delay between bases means there is a small lag between the bases when it starts moving. In case we talk about bay 1, 2, and 3. So once the bay 1 moves, there is a small lag between bay 1 and bay 2. And once the bay 2 moves, there's a small lag between bay 2 and bay 3 for movement. And that lag is 0 to 2 seconds, and maximum is 2 seconds. Drive of carriages, all carriages drive together, as we showed in one of the video clipping earlier, animated video, with the time lag. And operating temperature, we can have an operating temperature which can go from -30° for any cold room applications to +45° centigrade, which can be withstood by this mobile pallet tracking system and all the control panels and electromechanical instruments. Noise level is less than 70 decibels. And control is completely by programmable logic control circuit systems. Length of the carriage can go up to a maximum of 67 meters in terms of mobile pallet tracking. And the throughput for this system would be 20 to 24 pallets per hour. Having gone through it, I will present a video to you all, which would summarily demonstrate the entire operations of pallet tracking and the parts of it. Please have a glimpse of it. Here we go. That brings us to the end of the presentation, and thank you all once again for being a part of this webinar, and we are open to a question and answer session. We have on our panel Mr. Nagendran, who is heading our design, and we have our technical expert Mr. Srini also along with me to take up your questions and answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shiva, for this insightful journey that you took us through. And I must say, means initially it was looking very scary, that racking system carrying thousands of component is the stored good, and it is moving, and it is monstrous actually, because since the time we have seen racking system as standstill, and the MHE goes and take the product whichever you want. And yes, we'll definitely take questions. So before that, I'd like to make an announcement. So there is this feedback form, okay, that we have posted um in the box right hand to you. Just let us know, means how did you like the webinar, and what other topics you would like us to take in future. And yes, with this I'll go for the first question. Okay. So is there any height restrictions on MRP, so MPR, I mean mobile pallet tracking?
Yeah, Srini, you would want to take that question?
Audible, sir? Am I audible, sir?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
you're audible.
Yeah, see, there is a height restriction. The height to depth ratio can go up to 5.2 and with the speed of 4.7 meters per minute. However, if we can further reduce the speed, we can go up to 5.6. Now, what is this 5? Height to depth. Height is the last loading level beam, and the depth is your wheel center to center.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So the next question is mobile racking as compared to standstill racking. What is the cost advantage over 5 years given the same space?
So here, I would like to take this question.
Okay.
Uh, See, actually, it depends on two factors. One is the type of investment which has to be made on the equipment of mobile racking. There, it would be more than the selective pallet racking. But in terms of overall cost of operation, because you have a rental saving or the space which is saved, the overall cost of operation comes down with years of
Okay.
operation. Now it
Hmm.
depends on where we are going to operate this and how costly is the retail is the real estate cost. So it depends on that and the type of storage system which we are going to create with what depths and what height. More the depth of the bay. In fact, I mentioned that it is 67 meters the depth we can go to. More the
Okay.
depth of the bay, lesser the system, and hence we can achieve cost economics much faster.
Okay.
More the length
Okay.
of the bay, rather. Yeah.
And as a following question has come about the maintenance of MPR. So whatever you explained, this does include the maintenance cost as well.
Yeah, it includes maintenance cost as well. It depends on the type of the length of the carriage, number of carriages,
Mhm.
and when we talk about overall cost of ownership, maintenance cost also gets included. And in case the length is aptly chosen, the length of the carriage is aptly chosen
Mhm.
for the real estate cost, we could work out the economics and see.
Okay, great. Okay. What are this is the next question. What are the flooring specifications required for MPR? Is there any special thing or the same thing?
Srini would like to take this question.
Yeah, sure. The flooring base requirement should be bare minimum of M25 grade RCC floor. There are
Okay.
two types of flooring.
I'm unable
One
to
is
hear him. Darshit, the audio is
Yeah,
less.
the voice is low. Can you come little ahead or towards your computer?
okay. Am I audible now? Is
Yes,
it clear?
yes, yes. Yeah, much better.
Yeah. See, as I said, the basic specification of the flooring is bare minimum requirement is M25 grade of RCC concrete.
Mm-hmm.
However, there are two. It has been classified into two grades. Like one is for the existing floor. If customer is already having an existing floor, then we need to cut out the rails and we need to cast the floor later. In that case, the floor specification can be with our maple cement and all, but the locally we need not to do the concreting. However, the embedment of the anchoring, that should be inside the RCC.
Okay. Okay, great. So, the RCC work, okay. So, it should be carried out by the owner, or how is it? This is
Yes,
just
Flo
out of
flooring
curiosity, I'm
part.
asking.
Yeah,
Uh,
flooring part should be into the customer scope. That will not be into the vendor scope.
Okay, okay, take. Okay. So how can I evaluate ROI if I want to change my existing SPR to drive-in or a shuttle racking system?
The return of investment is depending upon the multiple parameters. It's like now, what is the throughput, how many pallets are in and out, and the kind of the space, as Shiva sir told rightly, the value of the space. I mean, if you are really getting a very expensive space, then that will bring out this thing. However, on a standard note, you should get in a 2 to 3 years of the return of investment for at least, let's say, 2000 pallet location SPR conversion to your mobile pallet tracking conversion.
Okay, okay, okay. So the next question is, how can what is the time consumed for retrieval in mobile racking in comparison to the other storage modes like SPR, DDPR, and VNAR?
The throughput for all the storage system what you talked about is
Voice,
select.
sir, sorry to interrupt you, sir. Sir, your voice is very low. I mean, it's coming very
Actually, you
low,
have to
I
be
think.
closer to the
System.
system.
Yeah. Is it clear now?
Yeah, you need to
Y-
be a little louder also.
yeah.
Correct, correct. Okay. Now the throughput for a selective pallet racking, a normal with a wide aisle racking, let's say forklift truck, and this thing for a forklift truck should be close to 25 to 30 pallets per hour. However, it depends upon the skill set of the an operator. And for example, the drive-in storage and shuttle racking will go up to 20 pallets per hour. Now, mobile pallet racking, there is one operation which is additional in addition to the selective pallet racking is their opening of the aisle. So that will reduce the throughput up to 20 pallets to 22 pallets per hour.
Okay. 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 So, the next question is, what is ballpark figure per pallet system cost? What is ballpark per pallet system cost? And what is maximum load carrying capacity in mobile racking? These are two different questions. Okay, by the same person.
Maximum load bearing capacity of an undercarriage
Mm-hmm.
uh, is up to, I mean, what we offer is up to 700 metric tons
Okay.
for one undercarriage. And the entire carriage length could be maximum up to 67 meters. Now,
Okay. Yes.
uh, there's I mean, that too, by default, we give 540 is the threshold, but depending upon the customized node, we can go up to 700 metric ton. And that will derive your number of motors to be deployed in the undercarriage. As far as price as per pallet is concerned, it
Mm-hmm.
depends upon the efficiency of the solution. For
Okay.
example, if I am giving a very small carriage length,
Uh,
है ना, then and the height is very less, let's say Jeep 3 loading levels, then the price will be different. And if I say I'm giving 50 meters long carriage and 7 loading levels, then the price per pallet will be different. So the range will be very big, wide. So, for example, if the customer can tell me one configuration, then I can give in that range. However, it will be close to, it starts from 8,000 rupees to 60,000, 16 to 16,000 for a normal configuration, 3 pallet per load level, and up to 12 meters of the last loading level. That's how it goes. But sometimes, some people give a very wider pallet, like 2,500-meter wide, then price per pallet will be very high. I'm just
okay.
giving you a ballpark figure for a 1,200 width pallet, and 1000 depth pallet, and 1500 millimeter height pallet, and 1 ton load. This is the for this configuration.
Okay.
But
Okay. So, the questions flooding means, the topic is so interesting. So the next question is, do you have any solution for e-com sector where we predominantly plan bin and pallet shelving? Do we have any options for moving into dense storage for increasing the cube density in the building? Uh,
can you
was
please
the
repeat the
question clear?
question?
And means, can anyone else
Can you repeat
take
the
the question?
question?
Yes, yes,
Can you
yes. I'll
repeat?
repeat the question. And one more thing means, sir, Srini, sir, your voice is not coming actually. Means, we are getting the comments. Okay, so is there
Okay.
any solution? Means, can you check the system's voice? I mean, no. So I'm repeating the question. Do you have any solution for e-com sector where we predominantly plan bin and pallet shelving? Okay. Do we have any options for moving into dense storage for increasing the cube density in the building?
Shiva, I'll try and answer this question.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if we go to e-com sector, okay, even before we go to e-com sector, I will try and answer how a mobile pallet tracking system works. A
Okay.
mobile pallet tracking system works where the inward is a unitized goods, means the product comes in as a pallet, goes out as a pallet. So both in and out are as a unitized goods. But what happens in e-com? Normally in e-com operations, most of the times the SKU goes out as discrete units. Say for example, you will pick one box, one pen, one book. That is how the picking happens in e-com. Whereas it is never a single unitized goods which is moved out in e-com as a segment, if you see. Because most of the time it caters to an end customer need. So that is where no most of the time if you see e-com applications, the pallet tracking as a solution it is very rare. Pallet tracking works for the large sized goods in e-com where the single item can be put on a pallet. And the second constraint is many times e-coms uh, the ERP system or software which drives this picking also has got a limitation in terms of picking goods from a palletized solution. Say if you talk about part picking or bin picking from a pallet, the software also doesn't support. Because if you have to pick a good and scan it from the location, normally it happens only for a bin location. And from a pallet, it is not possible to pick one particular item and then still correct the item in the system. So that is where such palletized dense storage solutions at this point in time is not coming out as a suitable solution for e-com. This is in general. But when we
Okay.
go ahead and suppose if we can see it as a specific requirement, where there is a possibility that the goods inward is also as a pallet and goods going out is also as a pallet, definitely we can think through. But our experience so far in e-com, it is never like that. It is always discrete items in and even goes out as discrete items to some extent bulk in, but dispatch is always discrete. So the picking always happens as a discrete goods. So by operation, most of the times the direct pallet tracking solution doesn't work for an e-com solution. But however, if there is a special need or a specific need, we can think through a palletized solution.
Okay. Okay. Great. Great. Thank you. Thank you for this. So the next question is possible types of breakdown and TAT to attend the breakdown. Competency level of person engaged in maintenance. I mean, the first question is what are the possible types of breakdown and TAT to attend the breakdown, and what competency level of person engaged in maintenance is required?
Potential failures on this mobile pallet tracking is primarily the sensors which get fails across. That
Okay.
too because by virtue of mishandling the pallets or the equipment hits out the sensor. These are the only reasons. Else there is no life cycle time for a sensor. For example, if a pallet is projected beyond the rack, and the sensor is whatever is on the bottom will get sensed, and again it will get a breakdown issue. And once the sensor is breakdown, the entire system will not work unless otherwise the sensor is replaced. That's a major failure across this thing. Other one is like, that is one potential failure so far. And very rarely happens like, people auto mode doesn't works. But that is
Okay.
also can be sorted out remotely if we connect to the system. One of any one of our project team can go there and remotely connect. We can sort it out. Now, the responding time which we claim is to understand the problem, we'll take 24 hours, 24 working hours, and
Mm-hmm.
to if there is a spares issue, the spares available with the customer, then we can fix it up in 48 hours. And if the spares are not available and not even available at our end, then we will have to import them. Then it might take a week's time probably. That's a worst case scenario.
Okay, okay. So, in case of improper housekeeping, okay, even smaller quantity of dust can hamper the sensor movement, or how to conduct HK activity, mainly to clean cobwebs at height.
The sensor doesn't get damaged by because of the dust and all. It
Dust,
is
okay,
primarily because of hitting the equipment goes and hit the sensor. The point
okay,
number two, if your improper placement of the pallets, if the
okay,
sensor doesn't is not able to sense it, and if you multiple times if you're making it a manual movement, inching and all those things, then sensors will stop identifying, because there over a period of time it will sense that there is some problem in it and will stop it. There is a cycle for that, because these are all safety integrated level 2 what we claim it across. We gave it a SIL 2 level.
okay, okay.
Dust
Right.
and
So
all will
to
not
add
affect
to
it.
whatever, yeah, Srini, continue. Sorry.
No, no, I'm done. Yeah, please.
So to add to whatever Srini said in answer to last two questions,
Mm-hmm.
one failure happens in electrical or electronic components, um, wherein this type of failure happens in any electronic components which we come across, right? Not only in storage systems, but any electronic components we use day in and day out in our normal life. So that is the type of failure,
Okay.
but still that failure is also limited to the extent that this system is created for a robust operation in a storage environment,
Mm-hmm.
which is bound to have all sorts of weather conditions and all sorts of pollution coming into it and abusing the system. So it is made in cognizance with the pollution-based environment and all those things. Even though it is made rigid and robust, but still there is some amount of care we need to take when we are handling such operation, so that when we use the material handling equipment, when we take and store the material and retrieve the material, adequate care is taken so that the sensors, which is at various levels, are not coming in contact with the material handling equipment or with the storages, and they don't get damaged, because you have various levels of sensors at various places across the lower portion of the racking system at the undercarriage level, which is very much prone to get hit or abused unless and otherwise a care is taken, a good process, a safety process is put in place to ensure that these damages don't happen. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So, I'll take last two questions, sir. Now, as we are running short of time. Now, so, can operations be carried out in multiple L at a time in case of mobile pallet tracking?
If there is allocated one aisle, wherein
Mm-hmm.
like, normally a system is designed with a one aisle, which means if I am allocating 3200, let's say for a reach truck, I am giving a 3200 millimeter aisle, then it will go into the open aisle will be only one aisle. Now, if you're giving a system in such a way that there is one fixed aisle and there is another one fixed unit in the middle and there is another aisle is created in the other side, then you'll have to split it up into two blocks. Then only it is possible. In one block, one aisle only can be done.
Okay.
See,
Okay.
to add to that, it's an optional feature which I explained just before the ventilation feature. The available aisle space in a system, excuse me, in a system like this, which is designed, is fixed. Now, within the available aisle space, in case you want to have two bays to be created wherein operation has to happen, it would be with the available aisle positions only. And we need to see what is the type of material handling equipment we are using in the aisle. Will it be able to get inside the aisle if it is split to access the pallet positions, or if it's just going to be a human intervention getting into the aisle and doing some operations over there, depends on the aisle width and all. But yes, we can create it. That option is there as an optional feature, but it would be split between the available stipulated aisle width, which is there for any particular system as per design.
Okay. Okay. And the last question, how much manpower cost is saving in various storage system? I mean, the storage system that we explained today, means in terms of percentage or.
Now, I can tell you, and I would I would like it to be explained further by Srini or Nagendran.
Mhm.
It depends on the type of storages what we want to take up. Depends on the space what we have. Depends on the type of equipment what we are going to use in the aisle, and depends the henceforth depends on the type of aisle which we need to create, and what is the type of height which we have, the space which we have, and how is it that we are going to store across levels. So there can't be one answer to
Right.
this one. It depends on what we want to store and to what extent and how we want to store, and hence what is the type of solution we are going to give. But for sure, these warehousing solutions bring with it a great amount of operational efficiency, a good amount of safety for man and materials, and it enhances the operational efficiency not only of the warehouse but of the entire business, because warehouse forms a big part of any business, warehousing operations, rather the logistics operations, for which in which this is a part of it, forms a big chunk of cost for any business, and it could matter a lot. But to what extent, we need to get into details, as I mentioned in the during the first part of my answer right now, to understand how much it would be efficient. But it is going to be surely efficient. Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
just to add to Shiva's point, the solution when we are comparing different solutions, see there are two things which can get saved. Predominantly when we shift from a conventional pallet tracking solution to a VNA to DDPR to shuttle. Yes, this all depends again on the customer's SKU and then the throughput requirements. There will be savings on two fronts. One is the savings on the space in terms of the cubic volume and then the floor space that we are utilizing. And second thing, when it goes to an application like a cold room, where, for example, we can increase the density of the storage with the same cubic volume of refrigeration that we are doing, it is going to give us savings on the cost. But if I have to answer purely on the manpower cost, these solutions may not give you a difference only from the manpower cost perspective, because the manpower cost purely depends on the throughput that a customer is going to look, and accordingly, the number of material handling equipments to be operated gets decided. So if you have to purely talk about the manpower cost, we may not find a big difference in the manpower cost, but whereas cost savings will be there on account of the savings on the floor space, which can be effectively put into use for some other value-added operations. And number two, in terms of cost of ownership, the kind of power consumed for the refrigeration units for the cubic volume that is being used for to store the number of pallets, yes, there could be savings on cost. But purely on the manpower cost, the different systems may not give a big different manpower cost, because finally it is the throughput which drives the manpower cost and not the storage density. Hope I have answered it.
Yes, fantastic, sir. And I would like to thank all the attendees, those who have listened to us and actively participated in the questionnaire. And Shiva sir, your team, Mr. Nagendran and Mr. Srini. And last but not the least, sir, it was a fantastic. The way you presented it means, mobile pallet tracking. Yes, some of us might know it, but the way you kept the secrecy of it and revealed it component by component, everything openly, and it was very, very nice to have it, sir. And with this, I means we are already 5 minutes over running out the time, and thank you once again, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank you all for your time, patience, and being a part of this webinar. Thank you all once again for the
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yes.